Hello, you beautiful nerds. So here we are. It's been a long time coming, but we're finally doing that thing I said I'd never do. If you've been watching this channel for a while, which statistically you probably haven't, but if you've seen any of my older videos, especially ones dealing with Batman, I have very briefly expressed my disdain for this movie. This was my first time watching it, cause being such a big Batman fan and a fan of the character of Joker, I was actively avoiding it when it came out. Also, it came out on the 80th anniversary of Batman, and that just felt disrespectful to me.
That is blasphemous!
In all seriousness, one of the things that makes the relationship between Batman and Joker so intriguing is ignored by the very creation of this movie. But despite that, I was able to put my bias aside and just watch this movie as a movie. Not a comic book movie, but just a movie. So without further ado, sit back, relax, drink something, smoke something, you know, do whatever, get comfortable. And let's do a deep dive analysis of Joker. But first, a prelude. Before I really get into the review of this flick, I want to talk about why I didn't want to see it. If you don't want to hear my philosophical and literary rant, you can check the timestamp and skip ahead. But if you're here for the bullshit, then strap in, cause here we go. Now, I'm not in the camp of people who thought that this was a danger to society and that this would breed a whole new generation of incels, cause the incels are already out there. Whether or not they like this movie or what they may take from it is up for debate, but I think that this movie is mostly just a danger to college dorm room walls, cause this is just gonna join movies like Fight Club and Boondock Saints and the movies that angry male cinephiles love category. So with that not being an issue, there are really just two big reasons why I didn't want to see this movie in the first place. And honestly, why this flick had an uphill battle trying to win my approval. Number one, the Joker can't be humanized. One of my personal favorite things about Joker is that he has no redeemable qualities. He's straight up violently insane and has no genuine remorse or kindness in his heart. He's not some misunderstood misanthrope who just needed someone to care. He's not one of those bad guys who deep down isn't that bad because he's just trying to support his family or some such shit. He's not even like Thanos or Killmonger where he has a sympathetic viewpoint with a violent means to an end. Dude is purposeless evil if a human ever was. And the interesting thing about that is how Batman reacts to the actions of Joker. Batman cannot bring himself to kill people, but now he's been faced with a seemingly unstoppable, incomprehensible, irredeemable force that arguably would be better off dead. But he just can't. He can't bring himself to kill the guy. That's the flaw of Batman. His morality and unwillingness to kill is definitely seen as a good thing, but the trauma from his childhood will not allow him to take a life. Joker is the yin to Batman's yang. What makes Joker such a compelling antagonist is that he directly challenges the weakness of Bruce Wayne. He is completely devoid of morality and he knows Batman's limitations. Joker also isn't afraid to die and even relishes the idea of dying at the hands of Batman. So the intimidation factor that Batman normally employs has no effect. Batman is such a part of Joker's identity that I don't think that Joker exists without Batman. We've even seen stories where Joker has no will to go on doing his Joker thing without Batman present.
Joker, if there's no Gotham, then I'll never get to fight you again.
What?
You're the reason why I get up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and pump iron until my chest is positively sick.
This is a very demented, sexless love story. And whether the audience knows it or not, that's why it makes some of them so mad when filmmakers try to change these particular aspects of these two characters. It's what binds them together and makes their constant battle between each other tragically futile.
I think you and I are destined to do this forever.
A film where its sole purpose is to humanize the Joker was already an ill-conceived idea, so I had no interest in seeing the flick. There have been some comics written about villains that have been interesting, but the stories were handled with care by people who loved and admired those characters. And Joker was handled by this guy. Which brings me to my next problem. Todd Phillips doesn't care about Batman. Now, it's a lot to ask for everyone who is involved in these movies to be a huge fan of the source material. Not every actor or director has to be a comic book nerd to tell a good story about a comic book character. But it doesn't seem like Todd Phillips even cares about these comic book characters. When you hear Todd Phillips talk about the making of this movie, it's pretty clear that he has a resentment towards superhero flicks. Much like his hero Marty, he feels like the genre has overrun the industry, making it harder for smaller films to be made and or recognized. And there is some truth to that, but I mean, the whole project seems like it was wrought from frustration. Todd Phillips wanted to make a comedy, but he feels like he can't make edgy comedy in this new woke age of entertainment. I talked a little bit about this in my Jojo Rabbit review, but oh shit, I never reposted that video after my channel got hacked. Huh. Should I repost that? Who cares? Nobody cares. Anyway, Todd is right. There is not a single edgy comedy out there in this woke culture because it's impossible to be funny in this climate. I mean, except for South Park, I Think You Should Leave, Righteous Gemstones, Atlanta, Barry, Broad City, Astronomy Club, Hacks, Rick and Morty, Disenchantment, Catastrophe, Fleabag, Big Mouth, Bad Trip, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Why Are You Like This, F is for Family, Auntie Donna. Oh wait, I guess what he said was complete bullshit.
That's bullshit.
There are a lot of movies, TV shows, and stand-up comedians who have hilarious, edgy comedy. And I even admire when filmmakers or comedians look back at their old work and say, as much as we're still proud of it, as we've become more socially aware, our comedy has changed and has gotten better for it.
Are we going to discuss the...
We made some poor choices. Our hearts were in the right place, but the behavior was wrong. I think as the filmmakers, we made some questionable decisions there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's fair to say.
I can commend Phillips for taking a big swing and wanting to make this grimy, violent flick about mental health, but this is only a Joker movie in name. Yeah, it takes place in Gotham and the Waynes and Arkham are present, but again, these are just names of characters we're familiar with attached to a story that has no resemblance to the world of Batman. So whatever, going into this movie, if I was ever going to find a way to enjoy it, I had to divorce myself from my connection to the source material. It didn't matter that Thomas Wayne acts out of character or that none of the traits they give to Joker seem accurate, because this isn't the Joker I know. This is a movie about a guy living in New York 1978 who's struggling with mental health. And my initial thoughts are, it's okay. I like movies that delve into mental health, and I don't even mind when it's a movie about a crazy white dude who is clearly in the wrong. I liked fucking Taxi Driver, and in my opinion, Observe and Report is the best movie that tells this kind of story. And it's also kind of fucking hysterical. Two ways Jody Hill is a better director than Todd Phillips, but I won't say anything else about that. Give Jody Hill a comic book movie. Okay, that's seriously, I'm done. I promise. Jody Hill, Green Arrow, Green Lantern movie 2027. Let's get this campaign started. Who's with? Okay, so in this movie, the story follows Arthur Fleck, a mentally ill, aspiring stand-up comedian who has a day job as a clown. What kind of mental illness does he have? Who's to say? He's just generically unwell. He's like movie crazy. We get a scene at the beginning of the movie to show that he's like pathetic or whatever. Okay, coming from a guy who was bullied for years and a guy who did sign spinning for years, I call bullshit on this scene. Why would the fucking cast of Vampires vs. the Bronx come and steal this dude's sign? No one tries to steal your sign. People try to steal your shit because your belongings are valuable. A big piece of cardboard that is specific to this business is worthless. And why would you let these little ass kids beat you up? I guess it's supposed to show how physically weak he is, but he's a grown ass man, dog. This scene should have looked a lot more like this. Anyway, we get that this guy has been hard done by. He's depressed, mentally ill, broke, has to take care of his delusional mom, and feels invisible to the rest of the world. His friend slash coworker slash other clown guy gives him a gun for protection, and later, after getting fired for bringing that gun to a children's hospital, he uses the gun to kill a few stockbroker bros on the train. For some reason, after this happens, people start seeing him as a heroic figure. Not sure why this is the public reaction, since it seems like a random killing. Also, there was no political or social agenda behind the killing. There's no manifesto left behind or message written on the walls. And considering how dangerous they make the city out to be, it was seen that acts of violence happen like this all the time. I don't know why the city is so enamored with this seemingly uninspired triple murder. It's just nothing about this quote-unquote revolution feels genuine, nor does its inception make a whole lot of sense. So later, Arthur finds out that he's adopted and that his mom has been lying to him his entire life. She was in love with Thomas Wayne. Wait, what the fuck? Why are you doing this, Todd? I'm trying to leave all my Batman bias at the door, and here you are insisting that the Wayne family be in a significant portion of this movie. For fucking why? It didn't even feel like it was necessary for the story. It only served as a sort of red herring that maybe Joker is Bruce Wayne's brother? What? I'm just saying, her boss could have been anybody. It didn't have to be this uncharacteristic Thomas Wayne. So Arthur's mom, who used to work for Wayne Enterprises, adopts Arthur and tries to claim that it's Thomas Wayne's son. At least that's what the papers say. Even though he apparently never slept with her, Arthur confronts Thomas Wayne about his parentage, and Wayne kind of dismisses him and says his mom was delusional. But I mean, are we really supposed to believe that? Like, genuinely, I'm asking. Is Thomas Wayne supposed to be lying to Arthur, and then Arthur tragically kills his mom for no reason? Not that killing your mom because you're adopted would be a good reason, but still. Between Joker's delusions, his mother's delusions, and the power and wealth of Thomas Wayne, anything and everything is possible with this storyline, including Wayne getting this lady knocked up and committing her to some insane asylum, especially in what would have been the 30s when people didn't give a shit about women or mental health. You ever see that movie Snake Pit? It's like that. It's left kind of ambiguous as to which story is real, and I'm not sure if that's a choice from the filmmaker or bad writing. A bit of both.
Bit of both.
Speaking of his delusions, let's talk about Sophie, the woman down the hall who is unnaturally kind to Arthur. Well, it turns out all of their cute interactions were just a figment of his imagination. The reveal that Sophie wasn't there, I think that the movie really wanted me to care about that, but I really didn't care about that. The character of Sophie was a big old nothing burger to begin with, so them not actually knowing each other didn't have an emotional effect on me. Maybe if they spent more time together, in his head, I mean, or if any of their conversations felt real. Like, I thought their conversations were just written bad. But it turns out it's how his delusional brain would see the conversations playing out, which, yeah, I guess that tracks. So this revelation, combined with him not taking his meds and everything with his mom, makes Arthur go crazy. Like, more crazy. And he becomes homicidal. Like, more homicidal. He kills his mom, he kills the tall, mean clown guy that gave him the gun, he kills Murray, and he seemingly kills his therapist at the end. I think he kills Sophie too. I'm pretty sure he killed Sophie. Like I mentioned before, I don't think that this movie is dangerous. It didn't cause riots in the streets like critics thought it was going to, mainly because people in real life aren't as dumb as the people of Gotham in this movie. Well, maybe never mind. I don't think it's as influential as some critics were afraid it would be, but I do think that the messiness of the film's perspective does a disservice to representation of individuals suffering from mental illness. I mean, are we to believe that Arthur went on a killing spree because he didn't receive the proper treatment and he stopped taking his meds, or because he's inherently violent? As student-led organization Shattering the Stigma points out, many of Arthur Fleck's journal entries about suppressing negative behaviors associated with his mental illness only contributes to the stigma that surrounds it. This series of events leads viewers to conclude that Fleck went on a killing spree because he is quote-unquote crazy, and therefore an unfortunate connection between mental illness and violence is perceived. Arthur's delusions also make it harder to interpret the third act of the movie. I'm assuming that the protest is real because the clown guy mentions it and Mark Maron mentions it, but after he kills Murray, which is a clear nod to this moment from The Dark Knight Returns, and kinda this moment from Network, the film blurs the line between truth and reality, which further confuses the message the director is trying to convey. Arthur doesn't know the difference between truth and reality, and neither does the film goer. I don't know if the film wants me to root for Arthur Fleck, but it sure feels like it does. At the time of making this video, Phillips is still hush-hush on what's real and what's not toward the end of the flick.
Will you ever reveal what you were thinking?
Yeah, I will one day, but I think in the far future.
But I think it only hurts the film by not answering that question. Fleck's speech at the end makes the point of view of the movie even more vague. I mean, he has this rant about people not being kind and about civility before he gets up and shoots his hero in cold blood. And the common argument of that action is, of course it doesn't make sense. He's crazy, which seems like an excuse for bad writing. I get it. I give movies I like a pass for bad writing too. According to the logic of No Way Home, Jamie Foxx's character shouldn't even be in the movie. But I saw that shit 3 times in theaters, so whatever. Like what you like. I will say that Joaquin Phoenix is doing some, whew, man, he sure is acting. Dude was definitely swinging for the fences in this movie, and he definitely knocked a couple over the, out of the, I don't know anything about baseball. He's doing really good in this movie. He's giving a great performance and you can tell he's in it the entire time. There were some eye roll moments, but that had more to do with the script and the shit they would have him doing than anything else. And the dancing was a little bit, the dancing was a bit much. And if y'all told me that they were playing this song during this like infamous dancing scene, I would have walked into this movie assuming it was a comedy. That's why are we playing rock jocks right now? A lot of my actor friends really like this movie, and I get how you can get entranced by the performance because Phoenix is giving it his all. He totally deserved the awards he got, and I will never even attempt to critique it. But he's not, and I know I already said you gotta watch this movie with a non-comic book movie eye, but he's not Joker. As mentally ill as Joker is, he's still smart. And Arthur Fleck is kind of a fucking dum-dum. He doesn't have a good plan the entire movie. Even the plan to kill Murray was bad. He got away with it, but realistically, he shouldn't have even ended up on the stage. Anyone who's ever worked in professional television, after spending 2 minutes with this dude, would have thought, oh no, this man is unwell. We cannot put him on live television.
There's a lot of theories going around, and there are going to be so many.
I know.
One that I think that caught my attention the most was that the Joker in this movie is not the real Joker, it's the one that influences the Joker that we meet later.
So this is a Joker movie because it's like are we supposed to believe that someone in the crowd is the real? Otherwise, this isn't a Joker. This isn't a Joker movie. This film did do a good job of portraying the frustration of someone dealing with mental illness and how that can potentially worsen an individual's symptoms. You do get a sense that Fleck needs help and that by no fault of his own, he's not getting it. Commenting on the film, psychologist Roblin P. Luter stated that Joker accurately depicted the, quote, daily struggle for so many people with mental illness as they try to conduct their regular lives, and how knowingly and unknowingly cruel and insensitive the general public can be. I also thought that it was a nice touch that the only time he laughs voluntarily is at the end of the movie. It's not specified what disorder Arthur has, but the National Library of Medicine noted that the character showed symptoms of pseudobulbar effect, which can be due to traumatic brain injury. It's a condition that's characterized by episodes of sudden, uncontrollable, and inappropriate laughing or crying. As you can imagine, this makes being a comedian pretty hard. Come on, man, you can't laugh at your own jokes before you tell them. You're not Jimmy Fallon. Ha! Got him! But at the end of the movie, when he's in the police car after shooting Murray, he sees the riots in the streets of Gotham and he starts to laugh. And you can tell that his laugh is different from the others. You don't see any pain or shame behind his eyes like in the previous scenes when he's trying to hold it back. He actually looks happy. That might be my favorite part of this movie that I didn't really like that much. I get that we were trying to use the character as a commentary on mental health, but I don't think you can make that point with a character like the Joker. When your goal is to humanize a person who kills random people and terrorizes a community, and according to you, the main idea of the film is be nice to one another, it's a high and probably insurmountable bar to clear. This movie just puts a bad taste in my mouth. By the end, I feel like the movie wants me to revel in Arthur's nihilistic uprising, but the character just comes off as a whiny and irresponsible idiot who stumbled and fell into a pillar of society and knocked it over rather than actively trying to topple it. Now, I say all that about the character of Arthur Fleck not as an indictment of the film's ethics. Wisecrack has a great video about the philosophy of autonomy, which states that when judging art, we have to separate the aesthetic and ethical value of that art. Autonomism essentially argues that Joker is a success because it evoked the emotions it was supposed to, like fear and anxiety, and that the artist, i.e. Todd Phillips, should be liberated from any ethical criticism. Clive Bell stated that all art is moral because all works of art are immediate means to good. Once we have judged a thing a work of art, we have judged it ethically of the first importance and put it beyond the reach of the moralist. And to a certain extent, I totally agree with this. From the beginning, art has always been our way of communicating emotions to one another. But in Taxi Driver, I at least know that Travis Bickle is a racist, sexist piece of shit pretty early on in the movie. So by the end, I know how I'm supposed to feel. But this movie, you just kind of have to watch like a Fast and Furious movie, because if you think about it too much, you won't enjoy it. And I don't necessarily say that as a bad thing. As novelist and philosopher Iris Murdoch argues, there is value in art that represents immoral activities if it shows us a true perspective of the world. And the perspective of this film has been intentionally jaded for the sake of a was it all a dream, Saint Elsewhere type plot twist. Lastly, not for nothing, but the representation of the POCs in this movie is a little Ugh. At first, it was cool to see Zazie Beetz and Brian Tyree Henry in this film. Got a little Atlanta reunion. Where's Teddy Perkins at, right? Right? But while at first it was kind of nice to see some black people peppered throughout this very white movie, I started to notice a pattern. In the film, black women are either placed in positions of antagonizing authority or elusive romantic obsessions. Two lazily written archetypes that have been present in films for specifically black women a lot. Like feel like I see these characters all the time. I'm not the only one who noticed this either. Screenwriter and journalist Mark Bernardin had an interesting take on the black characters, specifically the black women in this movie and how they were represented in the story.
The film has this weird, it's an obsession with using black women as avatars of social failure, that every time Arthur Fleck is looking for support, every time he's looking for help, every time he's looking for somebody to help guide him through this world, he turns to a woman of color who ultimately says no. It's just weird. I don't understand it, but I don't know if the movie understands it either. It could have been from a perfectly well-meaning place that just, when you watch it, the isolated occurrences begin to, at some point, add up to a picture that seems a little bit less than equitable to those characters.
I don't know if this was his attempt to draw a parallel between Arthur's struggles and the black community, or which that would have been a bad idea, or if this was just a casting choice where he just put black people in small roles so critics wouldn't say his movie was super white. I don't know the motivations behind these casting choices. And considering how the director feels about quote-unquote woke culture, I would be surprised if he gave a shit about any of these questions. Honestly, I don't think he was trying to say anything with these casting choices, but there has always been a lack of consideration of how black women are depicted in film, and this movie was just another example of that. Kind of a nitpick, because I guess the point of this movie is that no one is nice to Arthur, but I'm glad someone smarter than me noticed it too. I feel less crazy now. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Zeba. Thank you, black people. I've said it once and I'll say it again. This wasn't a Joker movie. This feels more like the Darren Aronofsky Batman movie we almost got, where Bruce was gonna be homeless after his parents died, and Alfred was turned into a black mechanic named Lil Al. Oh my gosh, white people sometimes. I kinda understand some of what they were trying to say with this movie, but the script was just boo-boo. Beyond all of my comic book nitpicks, the movie just has a point of view problem. There are films like Nightcrawler about despicable people, but that movie has a clear point of view. Though you understand what he's going through, the movie isn't asking you to sympathize with him. And I'm not sure if Joker wants us to sympathize with Arthur Fleck or not. It kinda feels like the movie wants us to, and I don't like that. That being said, it wasn't falling down with clown makeup, which is what I think a lot of people were expecting this movie to be. It's hard to look past my resentment for this movie, because it's clear that the filmmaker is a bigger fan of Martin Scorsese than he is of Batman. I'd watch a movie about a down on his luck guy in the 70s who's struggling with mental illness. Again, I have watched that movie and I liked that movie, but the fact that this film is pretending to be a comic book movie so it can trick people into seeing it feels disingenuous, uninspired, and kinda mean. Though the message of this movie is wildly incoherent, I don't believe that this is an immoral movie. Nor do I think it's the responsibility of filmmakers to make moral films. In the words of my cousin-in-law twice removed, Oscar Wilde, there is no such thing as a moral or an immoral book. Books are well written or badly written. And in my opinion, this movie didn't threaten the ethics of society. It's just written very, very badly.
Bad. Excuse me? Bad.
What? Fuckhead? Badly's an adverb. Who taught you grammar? Get out. Vanish.
Alright, that is it for this analysis. Sorry this was such a long one, but clearly I had a lot of shit to say. I watched this movie like 4 times and did a lot of research on a lot of different viewpoints so I could fully understand where everybody was coming from and why people like this fucking movie so much. Because I do care about other people's opinions, and a movie that's this wildly popular you can't help but be intrigued by that. That being said, if you have any comments on the video or the Joker, or my comments, just leave them in the comments. You can comment in the comments. Can I say comments more? And feel free to go back and watch any of my Batman content. I got a video on the new Batman movie and a video about Blank Man and how that is related to 60s Batman. But until next time, stay safe, my little comedians, and may the force be with you.